Hey then everyone, it's Juan Romero here from SwitchWatch. We've got the Warframe review for you guys today, but before I get into this one, I want to give full credit to Johnny, who's one of our writers at switchwatch.co.uk. He's put this review together. He's the expert on this game. He's put in hundreds and hundreds of hours, and we've downloaded it on the Nintendo Switch. So I'm just narrating and editing this video for you. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into this one. The story of Warframe begins with you emerging from a coma like slumber into an unfamiliar hostile environment, awoken by a voice known only as the Lotus. She is your guide, and you are one of the last Tenno, an ancient race that has been bestowed with immensely powerful suits of armour known as Warframes. One codex entry describes them as warrior gods cast in steel and fury, and I can think of no better description for them. Warframe is set in the distant future but centres around our solar system. This is a nice touch from DE, the developers, as the recognisable planet names add some much needed familiarity to a game about space ninjas, magic weapons and interplanetary travel. It's far from the Milky Way we know today, however. It's overrun by the armoured military Grineer, the advanced robotics and heavy shields of the corpus, and diseased feral creatures called the Infested. These serve as Warframe's primary enemy factions, each with different strengths, weaknesses and even tactics. The story has a deep, intricate lore, but it doesn't force it upon you. It's primarily told through dialogue that plays in between missions at the side of your screen while you scurry around your ship. It's nice that it allows you to multitask, but also makes it easy to ignore. The cinematic quests that feature are particularly stunning, but they're the exception rather than the rule. You mostly have to seek out the deeper parts yourself, such as the hundreds of codex entries. Although I wasn't thoroughly riveted by the story, I appreciated that the option was there to delve deeper if I wanted more. In terms of gameplay then, as Warframe is a free-to-play game, I do feel it's important to cover one thing first, and that's Platinum. Platinum is the premium currency in Warframe that can be purchased with real money. It's what keeps Digital Extremes afloat. Very little is locked behind a Platinum paywall, fortunately. It's mostly just cosmetic items. However, you start with a limited number of weapons and Warframe slots, and you have to spend Platinum to unlock more. Although they don't exactly break the bank, this was my only real grievance with the currency system. Thankfully, Warframe gives you the tools to earn more than enough Platinum to cover this. If you stick with Warframe, you can easily acquire enough Platinum to decorate your frames, weapons and ship to your heart's desire. This leads to the phrase commonly uttered among veterans: fashion frame is endgame. In fact, it's common to find fans that only purchase Platinum as a way of showing appreciation to the development team. Now, this is probably the fairest premium currency I've seen before, let alone from a free-to-play game, and it's clear to see this is no coincidence. Digital Extremes actually cares about their consumer base and want to make their money ethically. The best example of this is Digital Extremes quickly removing a gambling system because they felt guilty. Let me just make sure that sinks in. They actively detached themselves from a form of monetization because they saw that it could be predatory. It's a refreshing approach to a free-to-play game, and one that I think deserves the high commendation it receives. As previously alluded to, weapons and warframes can be crafted without using the premium currency, though this isn't always simple. Warframes in particular require you to grind boss encounters. Every boss drops one of 3 component blueprints for a specific warframe at random, but you'll need all 3 to build a finished frame. This can get frustrating quickly. One Warframe Rhino only took me 6 or 7 boss fights before I could build him, while I had to defeat Jupiter's boss at least 20 times before I got the piece I needed. If you're unlucky with drops, it can take some serious grinding, but that's what should be expected from a looter like Warframe. The major thing differentiating Warframe from the likes of Destiny, The Division or Diablo 3, however, is the need to farm resources. Every blueprint will require credits and certain materials to build in the foundry once you initiate a build and complete it in real time. Usually this is between 12 and 24 hours, but can go all the way up to 3 days for a finished Warframe. Of course, following typical free-to-play formula, you can use platinum to expedite this, but skipping the wait is pretty costly. The good news is that there's a frame for every occasion, with over 35 Warframes already in the game, and Digital Extremes are regularly adding more. There's sure to be at least one that fits your preferred playstyle, and personally I found Frost was great for defense objectives, but Rhino was my go-to for most missions. Now, Warframe is largely intended to be a co-op experience, as most missions, except the occasional story-related quests, can be played with up to 4 players. The content is primarily player versus environment or PvE, but there's also a competitive PvP arena, if that's your thing. You can also play the entire thing solo, if that's more your speed, and I found this was often the best way to go. It's nice having the option not to deal with the headache of match-made allies setting off the alarms on spy missions, or alternatively having pros speed through a level in seconds. There is an overwhelming number of mission types and sources of new missions flooding regularly. It would take too long to go into detail about every kind available, but just from the space chart alone, you're shown various events. Daily and weekly alerts, fissures and sorties, all of which are designed to bring you back for more. And they're very good at doing this. At 2 AM you'll tell yourself that you're only playing one more mission, only to see a new alert pop up afterwards. It would give you just enough salvage to build that shiny sniper you've had your eye on. Then you remember you haven't finished today's sortie. Of course, you have to complete those 3 missions because you don't want to miss out on your daily reward, and you get the picture. You can lose hours in Warframe without even realising it, thanks to the prolific, varied content. As you finish missions, every weapon, melee or ranged, will level up from 1 to 30, as will your Warframes and companions. This increases your overall mastery rank, which is how you unlock new gear blueprints at the market and is the main goal of Warframe. There's also a rich, deep weapon upgrade system using mods, which plays the biggest role in increasing your damage output. Mods, which are usually rewards for finishing missions, will let you reload faster, fire through enemies, or deal increased critical and elemental damage. It doesn't stop there though. You can also attach mods to your Warframe, and these range from fairly typical improvements such as increased armor and health, right down to individual mods that enhance different abilities. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is movement. Movement is an absolute joy in this game. You really feel like a ninja with your slides, rolls, double jumps, wall runs and much more. The game has an incredible feeling of versatility and momentum, and it soon becomes second nature to string together a movement pattern that lets you traverse a level in seconds. Hovering to slow down your aim in midair lets you feel like a total badass, and was another truly enjoyable aspect of the control scheme. Even if the core gameplay doesn't sound interesting to you, I bet you'll have fun running and jumping around the levels like a true space ninja. And playing it on the Nintendo Switch in handheld mode or in docked, it does it with aplomb.
This one with us.
What has he done to you? I can't lose another Tenno. I'm searching through Warframe's power systems.
In terms of audio, the voice acting is top notch in Warframe's cinematic quests, and the same goes for the dialogue that's weaved between missions. Every weapon has a unique sound to it, and the noise of bullets and projectiles sticking your enemies is gloriously satisfying, particularly heavy shots hitting Grineer's armour. Thankfully, this is preserved on the Nintendo Switch, and there didn't appear to be any noticeable decrease in audio quality. It never really struck me as anything epic, but it certainly wasn't poor or absent. Looking back at it now though, I recognise that there is the occasional track from the OST which is truly stellar, particularly This Is What You Are. I don't think that most people are going to play Warframe for the soundtrack, however. I certainly had no issue playing on mute when I needed to. In terms of visuals and performance, for the Nintendo Switch's port of Warframe, Digital Extremes enlisted the help of the excellent Panic button. This is the team that helped bring Rocket League, Wolfenstein 2 and Doom to the Nintendo Switch, which were all great ports in their own right. In case you needed any further proof of just how incredible their work on Warframe is, their optimizations for the Switch versions have actually improved performance on other versions too. Even before the game was out, it was clear to see from the press footage that they'd done a great job. Now that it's finally here, I'm happy to confirm that Warframe runs beautifully on the Nintendo Switch, albeit at 30 frames per second. Fortunately, I only noticed the occasional drop in frame rate, even in handheld mode. Visually, Warframe has retained that fantastic effects, models and animations that the other console versions enjoyed, albeit the fidelity is slightly lower. You shouldn't expect the same visual fidelity on the PC or some of the ultra settings anyway. It's on par with the best looking games on the Switch has to offer, and some environments can look a bit plain and washed out, but the vast array of wonderful colours you can imbue your Warframes and weapons with more than make up for this. So in terms of value, well, Warframe really is incredible. There is a game that I've implored friends to pick up and try because I'm just so passionate about it. I spent well over a few hundred hours on Warframe before the Switch release, and I'm sure to spend more now that I can take it with me on the go. If you don't like it, then at least you haven't wasted any money. All this from a game where you never need to spend a penny. It gets full marks on value for me. Unfortunately, Warframe doesn't do the best job explaining its intricate systems and nuanced mechanics, which can easily overwhelm newcomers. This might stop some from persevering, but SwitchWatch has you covered. We've released a beginner's guide to Warframe that will help make this game easier to approach, so head on over to www.switchwatch.co.uk. I've put the link for you above. So, in terms of our verdict, there's so much more that I haven't even been able to cover, but hopefully we've given you enough intrigue to give Warframe a try for yourself. Third-person shooters and grindy looters won't appeal to everyone, but the dynamic movement and deep RPG elements add appeal from new angles. At the end of the day, it's free, it won't cost you anything to download, so why not give it a try? It might just take up the rest of your free time in the foreseeable future. From us then, this is a 9 out of 10. Thanks to Johnny for lending me a hand on this review. It's really appreciated. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one. My name's Juan Romero from SwitchWatch. Don't forget to check out our website www.switchwatch.co.uk for news, features and many more reviews. And I'll see you again on the next one. Take care.